I used to watch things on TV and knew that others were watching it too. History unfurled itself on the screen in real time. People in their homes watched the same shows, the same commercials, and let this common sense of cultural ownership fuel something like a social camaraderie between them. But then something happened. The internet happened. People's attention became fragmented, their attention spans shorter, their addiction to sensationalism more pronounced. These were different people than the ones he used to share the earth with. They were, for want of a better word, robots. Every once in a while he entertained trying to become like one of them, but it didn't last. Whereas in the past his writing had emanated from somewhere real and most of his energy had been devoted to translating it into words, now he spent most of his energy tailoring what he had to say to achieve a certain effect on his readers. He was more a performer than an explorer now, more concerned with how his audience would respond to what he said than with the intrinsic truth of what he said in its own right. Was this process occurring on a societal level as well? Were people becoming more and more full of shit due to a collective desire to impress each other at any cost? In the TV age, mass media personalities had utilized the same technology as the youth. This was no longer the case. The youth were getting their media from the internet rather than TV. This mattered because the two media perpetuated two correspondingly different ways of looking at the world. There was a disconnect between the cutting-edge internet people and the old-school TV people that was not only technological in provenance, but something much deeper, pertaining to the realm of ideas. While ordinary people in internet chat rooms debated women's rights and other social issues, the TV networks bemoaned the ubiquitous presence of women in the workplace. How could this be? Whence this cultural disconnect, this profoundest of all generation gaps? It was as though what was going on the TV screen took place in the pre-internet past, and the old-school technology of television had somehow retained old-school cultural attitudes. There had always been generation gaps, but this was the most pronounced one ever, because it was technologically driven within a social context that represented more than a medium of expression, but its subject matter as well, so that form and substance were, for the first time in history, identical. People used technology to talk about technology. And while they were talking about technology, they were not talking about the sorts of things talked about by writers who had belonged to a world more relevant to the one that had existed before competing artistic media had dominated popular culture since the advent of the internet, the game changer of game changers, the epicenter of the technological paradigm shift of early 21st century society. The pundits on TV behaved as though the old traditions were still intact, and the internet's primary function was what TV had portrayed it as in the beginning, an expressive medium. And yet people on TV betrayed their preoccupation with the internet through advertisements and other semiotic channels, whose products slowly but surely infiltrated the collective consciousness. The fake world of the internet was gradually transformed into a world more real for most of those who interacted with it on a regular basis than the world they knew they were supposed to think of as the real world. Little by little, real-world institutions were replaced by their internet counterparts. People no longer had the need for real stores, real books, real newspapers, real artworks. Everything could be duplicated, digitized, commodified, marketed, consumed. Corporations owned both the real world and the internet world they were turning the real world into. The internet became a convincing simulacrum of the real world. Hardly anyone noticed they were no longer living in it. People migrated to the internet, brought their minds into it. The physical world they inhabited consisted of places for them to sit on so they could do things on the internet. One used to live in the world, now they lived on it.
I like reality. I like being out. You know what I'm saying? I don't want, me, it's all good, whatever.